Welcome to Trending Unpacked, the show where we explore the stories behind the trends shaping our world. Today, we are boarding a freighter and heading straight for the Outer Rim. We're talking about something pretty huge in the entertainment world. That's the upcoming theatrical release, The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Oh, yeah. This one's a big deal. It really feels like it changes the game for the Star Wars franchise map. I mean, think about it. For the last, 4 or 5 years, The Mandalorian was everything for Disney Plus out. It was the show that really proved you could do high-budget, high-quality Star Wars week after week on streaming outside of the movies.
Totally. It was the reason so many people signed up initially.
Exactly. And now they're taking that core duo, Din Djarin, Mando and Grogu, the little green guy everyone loves, and they're putting them on the biggest screen possible. That signals a massive shift strategically for Lucasfilm.
The excitement is definitely there. You feel it online. But, the pressure must be immense, too. We're not just talking about, another Star Wars movie.
No, not at all.
This is taking the absolute crown jewel of their streaming service and pivoting it back to cinemas. It feels like the future of the franchise, cinematically speaking, is riding on this. So, our mission today, essentially, is to unpack all of this, look at the facts we actually know.
Filter through some of the wilder fan theories.
Right, navigate that, and then really analyze what this means, both for the story and, let's be honest, for the business side of things. The commercial angle here is huge.
And we definitely need to talk about Grogu, because he's so much more than just, cute memes and merchandise, although he's definitely that too.
Oh, absolutely.
But strategically, you can make a strong case that he's maybe the most important figure in Disney's Star Wars strategy right now, creatively and economically.
Okay, so let's dig in. We should probably start at the beginning, right? Set the stage with the show itself. So rewind to November 2019, Disney Plus launches. And The Mandalorian isn't just on the service.
It basically was the launch.
Yeah. It was the absolute must-watch, the thing that got millions signing up on day one. Before we even get to the movie, we have to remember how massive that initial splash was.
It really was like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Jon Favreau created it, and he just nailed this mix, didn't he? It had that gritty, almost Western feel.
The lone gunslinger vibe.
Exactly, but blended seamlessly with classic Star Wars sci-fi. And it felt cleaner, more focused, maybe, than the sequel trilogy films that were wrapping up around then.
Which were getting, let's say, a bit complex and maybe divisive for some fans.
Right. Mando felt like a return to basics in some ways.
Yeah.
You had Din Djarin, Pedro Pascal under the helmet most of the time, this guy living by a strict code.
Right.
And then, bam, episode 1, they give him the biggest possible complication.
This tiny, Force-sensitive child, Grogu.
The foundling.
And that reveal, I still remember the shockwaves online. Lucasfilm somehow miraculously kept Grogu a total secret.
Which never happens anymore.
I know. And that surprise, that moment you first saw him, it just caused this immediate global reaction. The sources we looked at nail it. The show instantly became the cornerstone of Disney Plus's success.
It was genius, really, in terms of managing a modern franchise. Keeping him secret. Baby Yoda, as everyone called him at first.
Still do sometimes.
Yeah, they totally bypassed the usual leaks. And the emotional hook was instant. This stoic bounty hunter suddenly thrust into this father figure role.
Protecting this incredibly cute but also mysterious and powerful little creature.
It gave the show its heart, That relationship anchored all the space dog fights and adventures.
Okay, so 3 seasons build on that success. The show becomes this huge part of the streaming landscape. And then January 2024, Lucasfilm drops the bomb. The movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah.
What do we know officially about who's running the show creatively?
This part's key for continuity, I think. It's confirmed Jon Favreau is directing.
The guy who created the series.
The very same showrunner, writer, now director of the movie, bringing the series creator over to direct the big screen version. That's a huge vote of confidence. It signals they want to keep that specific tone, the character voices, the whole feel consistent as it moves to cinemas. They trust his vision.
Makes sense. And what about timing? Star Wars fans live on timelines and anticipation. When can people expect to see this?
Okay, so the word is production starts sometime in 2025.
Next year.
Right. And given how long these big Star Wars movies take to make, with all the effects and everything, that points pretty firmly towards a 2026 release date.
2026. Now, let's just pause on that for a second.
Yeah.
The last Star Wars movie in theaters was The Rise of Skywalker in 2019.
That's right.
So 2026, that's a 7-year gap between Star Wars films on the big screen.
Wow, has it really been that long?
Apparently so. And for a franchise that used to practically guarantee a movie every year, or every other year.
That 7-year gap really highlights how important this Mando movie is, doesn't it? It's not just another film. It's like the big return. reestablishing Star Wars in theaters.
It feels like a revitalization effort, definitely. Okay, so let's talk narrative positioning, because this Mandoverse thing is clearly central now, and the film isn't just like a standalone adventure.
Correct. The Mandoverse. That's the term people are using for this whole interconnected web of stories on Disney Plus.
Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka.
Exactly. And the official line, what the sources say, is that the primary goal of this movie isn't to end the story. It's explicitly to expand the Mandoverse storyline.
Okay, expand it. But there's a more specific function mentioned, right? The bridge idea.
Yes, and this is maybe the most crucial piece of info we have about its role. The sources state clearly it will serve as a bridge to Filoni's planned Mandalorian-era crossover event film.
Dave Filoni, Favreau's partner in crime on the creative side for a lot of this.
Absolutely. He directed key episodes, co-created a lot of it, and he's gearing up for what sounds like a massive Avenger-style cinematic event film. That movie is expected to pull together all these threads from the different streaming shows, probably culminating in a showdown with the big bad Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Who we saw reintroduced in Ahsoka.
Precisely. So if Filoni's movie is the destination, the Mandalorian and Grogu movie has to be a critical step on the way there. It's the bridge to get us to that final event.
Okay, but calling it a bridge,
Right.
doesn't that create a potential problem? Like, if you haven't religiously watched all 3 seasons of Mando, plus Ahsoka, plus Boba Fett, are you going to be lost in the cinema?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the tightrope walk of all modern franchise building. Creatively, it means the movie has to work for the general audience buying a ticket. It needs a satisfying story on its own.
Right.
But it can't resolve the main conflict. It can't defeat Thrawn, for instance, because that's presumably saved for Filoni's film.
So it has to raise the stakes, set things up.
Exactly. Maybe introduce key players or items, move the pieces on the board, make the threat feel even bigger. It has to build towards the event film without actually being the event film.
That sounds tricky. To make it feel satisfying, but also incomplete.
Very tricky. It needs its own emotional arc, presumably focused on Din and Grogu's relationship, maybe a big decision for Grogu.
We'll get into those theories later.
Right. But the external plot, the Imperial remnants, Thrawn's shadow, that stuff has to escalate, setting the stage for what comes next. It's like Act 2 of a much larger play.
And this whole pushback to theaters, it's not just this one movie, is it? It feels like a bigger strategy.
That's the clear signal, yeah. The sources confirm this is part of a wider Star Wars roadmap. There are other films in development, projects with James Mangold.
Who did Logan? Indiana Jones.
Right, and Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. So after years where it felt like Star Wars' future was mainly on Disney+, Lucasfilm is now saying, nope, the ultimate stage, the place for our biggest moments and frankly biggest profits is still the movie theater.
And The Mandalorian Grogu is leading that charge.
It's the vanguard, taking their most successful streaming creation and using it to spearhead the return to cinemas.
Okay, so we've got the official picture. Production in 2025, release likely 2026, Favreau directing. It's a bridge to a bigger event. Now let's wade into the fun stuff. The fan theories, the speculation, the cultural impact. And we have to start with Grogu again.
You really do.
Because the moment he showed up, he wasn't just a character. He was instantly a phenomenon, a cultural icon.
He really was. It's fascinating how the source material talks about him in the context of Star Wars history. They put him right up there with the all-time greats in terms of like pure mass appeal.
Who do they compare him to?
R2-D2, the Ewoks, BB-8, those specific characters that just hit a nerve universally. They become cultural shorthand.
What is it about those types of characters, Grogu, R2, BB-8, often nonverbal or minimally verbal? Why do they resonate so deeply, especially commercially, more than, say, a complex human character?
It's a potent mix, I think. There's often innocence there, maybe some vulnerability. With R2 and BB-8, loyalty and usefulness, but they're droids.
Right, they beep and boop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Ewoks had that controversial cuteness factor. But Grogu, he combines the cuteness, the vulnerability, and this mysterious force power. Plus, crucially, he needs protection.
The father-son dynamic with Mando.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because he doesn't speak, you, the viewer, project onto him. You fill in the blanks. That creates this immediate, almost primal connection.
And it bypasses language barriers too, right? Makes him globally understandable.
Absolutely. Which, from a business standpoint, is pure gold. That translates directly into what the sources call a massive merchandising driver.
Billions, potentially. Plush toys, Funko Pops, T-shirts, theme park stuff.
You name it. And we saw that rush, didn't we?
Yeah.
After season 1, when Lucasfilm had kept him secret, there was this scramble to get Grogu merch out there because the demand was just off the charts.
So when we talk about Disney's strategy, this isn't just a side note. The money Grogu generates is a huge factor.
It has to be. His commercial power is so immense that, realistically, Any big creative decision about his future story has to consider the need to keep him, well, marketable.
Which kind of limits how wild they can get with his character arc, maybe.
Potentially, yeah. They need to protect the brand integrity of this incredibly valuable asset.
Speaking of his arc, let's get into the fan theories about Grogu's path. This has been the core question since the beginning, hasn't it?
Totally. Is he going to be a Mandalorian? Put on the helmet, follow the creed?
Like his adoptive dad.
Or will he go back to the Jedi path? Embrace the Force training Luke Skywalker started giving him.
Before he chose to return to Mando.
Right. Or the third option, which gets a lot of fans excited, will he find some kind of middle way? Forge something new, as the sources put it.
A Mandalorian Jedi, or something else entirely.
That hybrid idea is really appealing, narratively. It suggests maybe a way forward for the Force that isn't tied to the old Jedi dogma, which had its flaws.
Became too rigid, maybe.
Or the strict Mandalorian code, which is very focused on survival. It could be a chance to evolve the whole philosophy, a fresh start.
But if this movie is just a bridge, like we discussed, can it actually resolve that question? Or does it have to keep it open?
That's the tricky part, my guess. It probably has to lean into the tension, make it even more central, but maybe not give a final answer. If Grogu fully commits to one path by the end of this movie, it kind of limits the stakes for the big crossover event film that follows.
Right, you need that internal conflict still simmering.
Exactly. Keeping him caught between those two identities, Din Djarin's way and the Jedi legacy, that could be the emotional engine driving things towards the big finale. The bridge needs to keep options open.
Okay, let's shift from Grogu's internal struggle to the external threats. Mando and Grogu need someone to fight, right? Who are the likely villains fans are speculating about?
Well, the sources point to two main possibilities, which are probably linked. First, you've got the usual suspects. The remnants of the Empire.
The scattered Imperial warlords causing trouble in the Outer Rim. We've seen plenty of those.
Yep, they're reliable antagonists for this era. But second, and probably more significant for the bridge function, is the idea of adversaries connected specifically to Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Okay, quick refresher for anyone who maybe hasn't seen Rebels or Ahsoka. Thrawn is
Grand Admiral Thrawn, a brilliant blue-skinned chiss strategist, alien calculating super smart, a major villain from the old Star Wars novels, brought into canon through the Rebels animated series.
And Ahsoka ended with him returning from exile in another galaxy, looking ready to reunite the Imperial remnants.
Exactly. He's positioned as the big threat Dave Filoni's crossover movie will likely focus on. So it makes perfect sense that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie would feature Thrawn's influence, maybe his advanced forces, or characters acting on his orders.
Setting the stage for his full-scale campaign later.
Precisely. We should probably expect to see those Imperial remnants, but maybe now acting with a more unified, dangerous purpose under Thrawn's direction.
Makes sense. Now, we have to address it. The theory that will not die.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Will Grogu finally speak? The Grogu speaks. Memes are constant. Why is this such a persistent thing online?
I think it's just that natural human desire for resolution, His silence is part of his charm, part of the mystery. It forces Din Djarin and us to interpret his coups and gestures.
That's where a lot of the heart comes from.
Absolutely. But the idea of him finally saying a word, maybe Dada or Mando's name, or even just,
Yes.
it's irresistible fuel for fan imagination. Memes, fan fiction, endless debates.
It's like imagining Chewbacca suddenly speaking perfect English.
Kind of, but
Yeah.
the flip side is huge. If he starts talking, does he lose that unique magic, that enigmatic quality that makes him so appealing and honestly so marketable?
That's the billion-dollar question again, isn't it?
It really is. Artistically, you could argue a single well-placed word at a crucial moment could be powerful. But if he suddenly starts having complex conversations...
He just becomes a short green Jedi.
Exactly. He loses that Baby Yoda archetype that captured the world's imagination. So, for the brand, for the merch, for the cultural phenomenon, keeping him mostly silent is almost certainly the smarter play, even if it frustrates some fans waiting for that first word.
Maybe one word, a really important one, but not full sentences.
That would be my bet. A single word could be a massive payoff without breaking the character.
Okay, last bit of speculation. Cameos. It wouldn't be modern Star Wars without fans hoping for familiar faces.
The sources mentioned some obvious possibilities for the Mandoverse, right?
Oh, yeah. Luke Skywalker's the big one, obviously, given his history training Grogu.
Well, that brings up the whole de-aging CGI debate again.
It does. Expensive, sometimes controversial if it hits the uncanny valley. Then you've got characters like Boba Fett or Ahsoka Tano. They're already deeply woven into this Mandoverse storyline.
It almost feels like a requirement now, doesn't it, for a big Star Wars event movie to have that moment where a familiar face walks in and the audience erupts. It's definitely part of the playbook. It's fan service, sure, but it can also serve the story, if done right. That's the challenge.
How do you make it serve the story of Din and Grogu, not just feel like a tacked-on nostalgia hit?
Exactly. If Luke or Ahsoka show up, it needs to be because they have crucial information about Thrawn, or they can help Grogu with his unique path, or they push Din towards his next objective.
It has to move the plot forward.
Yes. Not just a wave to the camera. And given this film is explicitly a bridge to Filoni's big crossover event, having characters like Ahsoka appear, who will presumably be central to that event, that seems almost necessary.
Like connective tissue between the projects.
Precisely. It helps tie everything together for the audience.
All right, so we've covered the official facts, we've explored the fan theories and the cultural impact, especially around Grogu. Now let's really zoom out and look at the bigger picture. The strategy. Why take the absolute cornerstone of Disney Plus, success, as the sources call it, and move it back to the movie theater? This feels like a major business decision as much as a creative one.
Oh, it absolutely is. This is where we get into the economics and the shifting priorities at Disney, I think. For a few years there, everything was about streaming, right? Disney poured money and marketing into Disney Plus wide. Shows like Mandalorian, WandaVision, Loki were crucial to get people subscribed and keep them subscribed.
Proving the value of the service.
Exactly. But the reality, especially now that the streaming market is getting crowded and maybe hitting a growth plateau, streaming is great for steady income, for customer loyalty, but it doesn't generate that massive, immediate global cash injection that a huge blockbuster movie can.
You're talking about the difference between my monthly Disney Plus fee versus $1 billion in global box office in a few weeks.
Precisely that. Streaming gives you reliable retention value. Theatrical, if it hits big, gives you explosive front-loaded profit. That billion-dollar gross, even after the theaters take their cut, is a huge influx of cash. Plus, a successful theatrical release creates this worldwide cultural moment, tons of media buzz.
Things that are maybe harder to achieve with a streaming series drop, even a popular one.
Generally, yes. The scale is just different. And it seems like Disney, like maybe other studios too, is realizing they need that theatrical engine running at full power again. They need those big event movie wins.
So the Mando movie serves two strategic purposes then.
I think so, yeah. First, it rewards the dedicated fans who follow the show on Disney Plus scene. It gives them that big screen experience, that cinematic payoff, high-level fan service, you could call it.
Makes them feel valued.
Right. But second, and maybe more important for the long-term strategy, it acts as that essential bridge we talked about. It sets the stage for the even bigger Filoni crossover film. You can't really launch that huge cinematic climax without first proving that audiences will show up and pay movie ticket prices for these specific characters. The Mandalorian and Grogu is the test case.
It validates the whole Mandoverse concept for theatrical audiences.
Exactly. It's the litmus test. Will the love for Mando and Grogu on streaming translate into massive box office? Disney is betting yes.
And having Jon Favreau direct this specific movie, the Bridge movie, that feels like a key part of ensuring it works, right? Maintaining control.
Absolutely. It's a risk mitigation strategy. Favreau created this world. He understands that core relationship between Din and Grogu inside and out. That's what made the show work.
He gets the magic formula.
Hopefully. So putting him in charge of the movie ensures, or at least greatly increases, the chances of maintaining that tone, that character consistency as it jumps to the big screen. They're avoiding the risk of bringing in an outside director who might not quite get it. They're banking on his proven track record with these characters, leveraging trust.
Okay, let's talk about the immense creative pressure on this film, though, because it has to do so much, doesn't it?
The expectations are just sky high. It needs to be a thrilling, visually spectacular blockbuster worth the ticket price.
Standard movie stuff.
Right, but it also has to resolve, or at least significantly advance, years of narrative buildup from the show. Questions about Grogu's future, the villains, the state of the galaxy.
And it has to satisfy different audiences simultaneously. The hardcore fans who know every detail from the shows.
Who know the significance of the Darksaber, or Mandalore's history, or Thrawn's tactics.
And the more casual moviegoer who just loves Mando and Baby Yoda and wants a fun Star Wars adventure. How do you possibly cater to both without alienating one or the other?
That is maybe the biggest challenge facing any major franchise movie today. It's an incredibly difficult balancing act. If you spend too much time on exposition, explaining backstory for the newbies, you bore the dedicated fans and kill the pacing.
Right.
But if you rely too heavily on assumed knowledge from the streaming shows, you leave the casual audience completely confused.
So what's the solution? How do successful franchise films manage it?
Often, it's about skillful integration. using characters or situations to deliver exposition naturally within the flow of the action. Maybe a returning character explains a key piece of information that catches everyone up. And focusing relentlessly on the core emotional story, in this case, Din and Grogu. If that relationship works, it can carry audiences through, even if they don't catch every single lore reference.
And using nostalgia carefully, like those cameos we discussed.
Exactly. Use them as tools to advance the current plot, not just as decorative elements. If Ahsoka shows up, she needs to give Din information he desperately needs now to find Grogu or stop the bad guys.
Make the fan service functional.
That's a good way to put it. Make it serve the story you're telling today, which is Din and Grogu's story, and the story you're setting up for tomorrow, which is the big Mandaverse crossover.
But there's still that risk, isn't there? That the pressure to include those big cheer-worthy moments, like maybe Luke showing up again, could overshadow the main characters.
It's always a risk. The temptation to go for the easy applause line is strong. We've seen other franchise films stumble over that, where cameos feel forced or derail the main plot. The Mandalorian and Grogu really needs to keep its focus tight. Every element, every character appearance, ideally, should contribute directly to advancing Din's mission or exploring Grogu's choices and setting the stage for Thrawn.
Which brings us right back around, doesn't it, to the little green guy at the center of it all, Grogu. He's not just driving the plot, he's driving the whole commercial strategy. He's the imperative.
He really is the linchpin. We talked about the merchandising, the cultural impact. He's what makes this whole gamble, taking a streaming hit to cinemas, financially seem viable. The sources explicitly say he's central to Disney's creative and commercial strategy. You just can't separate the art from the business when it comes to Grogu. His success is too big.
So that leads to the really tough question, maybe an unanswerable one. Is the storytelling driving the merchandising success? Or at this point, is the need to keep Grogu commercially successful driving the storytelling choices?
That's the core tension, isn't it? Ideally, good stories create popular characters people want merchandise of. But when a character like Grogu becomes such a massive economic engine, the analysis, looking at the situation, strongly suggests his commercial gravity is now a primary force. It likely influences decisions about his development. Meaning his core appeal, the cuteness, the mystery, the nonverbal communication needs to be largely preserved to protect his marketability. Radical changes, like having him suddenly become a verbose philosopher, might be seen as too risky for the brand.
So the film's creative direction is, to some extent, guided by the need to maintain Grogu as this incredibly valuable commercial property.
It seems highly probable. They're building this big theatrical push around him and Mando. They're banking on that established affection to sell tickets, and they need to keep that affection strong.
So they're using their biggest streaming hit to re-energize their theatrical brand, leveraging the character who drives billions in merchandise to make it happen, and using that movie to set up their next big cinematic event.
That sums it up pretty well. It's a multi-layered strategy. Very smart, potentially very lucrative if it works.
But also very risky, right? What's the main risk?
The risk is always execution. Can they deliver a movie that satisfies all those demands? That feels like a big cinematic Star Wars event that honors the Din-Grogu relationship, that successfully bridges to the next film. And that keeps Grogu.
While pleasing both diehard fans and the general audience.
Exactly. It's an incredibly high degree of difficulty. The pressure on Favreau and the whole team is immense. It all rests on pulling off this complex balancing act centered around a character who mostly just coos and eats things. #hack outro.
Well, this has been a really illuminating look at everything surrounding Mandalorian and Grogu. It's definitely more than just another movie. We've seen it's a calculated strategic play. It's about validating streaming success in the theatrical market, setting up an even bigger cinematic future for Star Wars, and leveraging one of the most beloved and profitable characters the franchise has produced in decades.
Yeah, the stakes couldn't be higher, really. There's enormous pressure to deliver on the story built up over years of streaming, while also making sure Grogu remains the massive commercial and cultural icon he's become. It's a fascinating tightrope walk between art and commerce.
So we broke down what's official, navigated the fan speculations swirling online, and really tried to analyze the strategic importance of this big return to the silver screen. Thanks so much for joining us for this look at the source material.
My pleasure. Always fun to talk Star Wars strategy.
Next time, we shift from galaxies far, far away to real-world controversy with the Joshua John Dallas ICE story.